In today's episode, after making Bart pee in his pants, Homer starts therapy too. Country. When telling the therapist how you treat your child, the professional decides to apply all the techniques he uses with Bart. As a result, Homer is traumatized and Marge searches for help to get it back to normal. The episode begins with Mr. Burns and your employee flying in a balloon. Burns starts looking at the factory and notices some graffiti. He then lowers the balloon and cleans the graffiti, leaving a funny phrase. Suddenly, a breeze begins to blow in the balloon and causes Burns to be thrown to the side. Burns screams for help so that someone could lower the balloon. Homer comments to Carl that the situation of Mr. Burns is not well. Carl suggests they shoot the Mr. Burns so he can get down from balloon. Lanny says they got lucky because he went hunting that day and ended up catching one elk. Suddenly, the moose starts running and hits Lanny. Lanny comments that the moose has been resurrected. Homer and Carl grab their weapons and start pointing to the balloon. Carl comments that he can't shoot because a balloon saved an artery of his and that shooting in another it would be something terribly cruel. Homer says he's a wimp and that he will take care of it himself. Homer starts making some preparations so he can shoot the balloon. Lanny asks him to shoot the balloon right away. Homer comments that he hasn't finished doing it yet, his rituals for making a good shot. Homer gets ready and starts shooting at the balloon. He ends up missing and hitting several flying ducks. Homer continues shooting but misses several shots. Some employees start laughing at Homer and they say he's a horrible shot. Homer manages to get a clear shot but ends up hitting a gargoyle, making its head fall off. Burns begins to descend and lands on the ground. Upon reaching the ground, Burns thanks Homer, having made a sure shot, and comments that saved his life and that could you make an order for everything that wanted. Homer asks him to give all his money and the houses he has. Burns denies it and asks him to be more realistic with what you are going to ask for. Homer starts asking for concert tickets, and Burns accepts. The next day, Homer and his family are going to watch the game. Lisa comments that when they were building the stadium, she ended up lying in front of several trucks, but that stadium was incredibly beautiful. Once inside the stadium, Marge comments that place is very chic and has several amazing things she can't buy. Marge comments that it's so amazing that they even have a spa with former players. They continue walking and Marge comments that they even have a zoo that exhibits all the team animals. Homer comments that everything is very good but they should go home soon because the game will start soon. Marge says they are at the stadium and that the game will soon begin and that he can watch closely. Homer comments that he hopes Lisa and Bart are enjoying themselves because their children will have to pay to go to that place if the team decide to change city. Already in the game, Marge sees the camera of fans and shows it to Homer. Suddenly, the screen asks everyone, "Start dancing." Everyone starts dancing except Bart. Homer asks why Bart doesn't want to dance. Bart says he doesn't really like the song and that he finds her a little boring. Homer keeps insisting and starts tickling in Bart. Bart asks him to stop, but Homer doesn't. Suddenly, Bart ends up wetting his pants, and everyone in the stadium starts laughing at him. Bart asks if Homer knows what he did, because everyone in the stadium had seen him getting wet the pants. Homer apologizes to Bart and begins to try to raise a wave. Marge asks him to stop and comments that it's not because everyone is doing what he should do it too. Homer explains that no one is doing it and that he just wants to start a new one. At night, Homer and Marge are watching television in the room. A news report shows Bart wetting his pants and comments that stadium operators had to open the roof so that the pants can. Bart's aghast. Homer comments that Bart will never forgive him for having humiliated him in that way. Marge comments that he really won't forgive because he destroyed Bart's self-esteem. He had. Homer says it's his fault he gave. Bart's self-esteem came from Marge. And if she hadn't done that, Bart, I wouldn't have self-esteem. Oh, but it was your idea to give self-esteem for him. Bart is working on the computer managing a newspaper. Journalists start to mock Bart for having urinated in his pants. Bart comments that he doesn't know why he accepted participate in that program as an administrator. Marge tells Homer that he can't let that go unnoticed and that he must reconcile with Bart and apologize. Homer agrees and says he would love to be one more sensitive father to Bart. Marge is happy and asks if Homer would be interested in applying for a course to the formation of parents. Homer accepts and comments that he can't wait to see Marge's finger passing through a list looking for some course. Marge starts looking through a magazine and discovers a course for parents. Homer asks her not to call and comments that the other negligent parents will make fun of him for doing that to his son. Marge says everything will be fine and that he shouldn't be afraid Homer comments that he misses his friends, drunks he made while taking driving school, and that they were very nice to him. "Oh, please, Marge, no. The other negligent parents will make fun of me, and they are so rightist. It'll be fine." The next day, Homer is in the center of advice. The therapist introduces himself by calling himself Dr. Xander. Xander comments that last week he had request for one of the parents to keep a diary, showing what his routine is like. Gerald starts reading and Xander comments that that's perfect. Xander begins reading Homer's file and realizes he's been a father for 10 years. Homer comments that he never thought he would be a father and that he wasn't prepared for that already. That do not teach what to do. Homer begins to comment on his life with Bart and mentions that he ends up strangling Bart when he makes fun of him. Xander interrupts Homer and asks if that really happened. And truth, Homer confirms and says he tried, but that wasn't the only thing he had in your toolbox as a parent. Xander doesn't understand and asks if he really serious. Homer confirms and says that's how it was. He was created. Everyone stares at Homer because of what he spoke. Now you're father of... Homer asks if those cookies are edible or just for decoration. Xander comments that they should finish the class at that time and come back next week. Next week, Homer walks into the room and greets Xander. Xander comments that he asked the others. Parents didn't come. Homer asks why he didn't ask to, that he would not be. Xander explains what he wanted to say. It's serious and Homer is doing something super wrong. Xander comments that as the situation is critical, the only solution is radical treatment. Suddenly, a tall man appears. Xander introduces Kareem to Homer. Kareem explains that he plays basketball with Xander in the weekends and that after he told what Homer does with his son of him, he was so disturbed that he ended up marking only 172 points. Xander comments that Kareem came just to give assistance in Homer's case. Xander puts a cap on Homer and explains that this is the time for him to understand how is being young and scared. Homer asks him not to do that. Kareem begins to squeeze his neck. Homer imitating what he does with Bart. No, doctor, wait, I'm just one little boy. Oh, if I screw her. Kareem comments that he doesn't want to do that and that seems wrong. Xander explains that Kareem is the only person who he trusts to do this job. A janitor appears and asks Kareem what he thinks about selfish players on the field. Kareem gets angry and starts squeezing. Homer's neck is stronger, saying that the foamiest players take the fun out of it. Sport. Time passes and the doctor continues with the treatment using Kareem. After a while, Homer comments that Xander made him see what life is like and that he should not squeeze the neck of Bart. Xander comments that they have made great progress and that may improve in some time. Homer comments that when he talked about the plan of health was lying and that he doesn't have any health plan. Xander says this is unfortunate, but that he is cured. The next day, Homer and Bart are drinking breakfast. Homer greets Bart. Homer comments that he is now cured. Bart responds that this is very good for he. Bart takes the opportunity to ask if Homer has stopped to drink. Homer laughs and comments that he will never stop because that would be the same thing as leaving of being a man. Homer explains that he is finally cured of rabies. That made him hurt Bart. Homer then asks Bart Zoe so he can prove that he is cured of your anger. Bart complains that he just woke up and that's boring. Homer asks him to try one more time, just like the old days. Bart gets up and cracks an egg on the fan, causing several parts to fly at Homer. Homer gets up furiously and tries to strangle Bart, but ends up having a vision of a squeezing face. Your neck. Homer starts to feel sick and falls to the ground and has a stroke. Abe appears and says that it is beautiful to see and that will record your child's first stroke. Later, Homer is lying in the hammock, talking to himself that he can't hurt Bart. Suddenly, Homer sees Bart on top of the roof. Homer yells at him to get down from there because if no, you'll get hurt. Bart says he's just joking and that will throw his shoes to him. As he gets closer, Bart throws his shoes at Homer's face. Homer gets angry and starts climbing up ladder to hit Bart, but starts to hallucinate that little guy is suffocating him. Bart sees his father crying and thinks that you can do whatever you want with it. The next day, Bart goes to school with a tractor. Bart's teacher stops him and asks, what would his father say if he knew? What is Bart doing? Bart comments that he would say it is an adult and is afraid of his own son. The teacher comments that this would be impossible. Bart points his finger at a room and Homer is writing on the board that it is already an adult and is afraid of his own child. Homer asks how many more he should write on the frame. Bart tells him to write one more picture and wash his car. Homer replies that the car key is share. Bart doesn't like it and asks who he's with, thinks he is talking. Homer gets scared and apologizes to Bart for saying that. Bart continues to ride the tractor and starts making a huge mess at school. At night, Homer is having a nightmare, with Bart yelling at him what he should to do. Leave me alone. It's ABC 123, the easiest song in the world. Homer starts dreaming that Bart is mistreating and beating him. Bart in the dream asks if he thinks that is better than the great Simpsons. Bart starts to get angry and throws the basketball in Homer's face. Bart comments that he is useless and that don't like the way he acts, nor how you dress or speak. Bart starts to get violent and throws the basketball in Homer's face while he walks. Marge starts trying to wake Homer up. Upon waking, Marge explains that the secretary of school had called her and said that Bart is out of control. Marge comments that she thinks he should do it, a therapy to be able to become normal. Homer comments that this is nonsense and that in a house there cannot be two people who need therapy. The next day, Marge goes to the old clinic looking for Dr. Xander. Upon arriving at the door of the old office of the doctor, realizes that he had changed address. Marge goes to the new location to look Dr. Xander. Upon arriving, he finds Xander in a deplorable situation. Marge asks what happened to make him stop at that location. Dr. Xander, but what happened? That damn economy. Xander explains that it is the economy's fault and that when the crisis came, the first. Marge says that's sad, but she needs help since her son is out of control. Xander asks how much she can pay for it. Marge says she only has $23 and canned beans in her trunk. Xander says he will help her if beans have sausage. Famous people were already approaching and that place. It wasn't safe for her. The other day, Bart, Romer, and Xander are in the forest. Xander comments that they will spend a week together to try to reconnect and unite, in addition to understanding what the role is of each one in society or within. Bart takes advantage and puts a snake in his pants of Romer, causing him to start screaming and jump in despair. Xander comments that it's not funny. He then goes to Romer and starts remove the snake. Xander asks if what he is picking up is really the snake. Romer says no and Xander is disgusted. He then picks up the snake and comments to she that it is unfair to her. Xander releases the snake and lets it go. Your way. Later, Xander explains that Bart will have to guide Romer blindfolded among the cacti so that he doesn't bump. Romer asks what they will gain if Bart do the right thing. Xander says they will get a better one. Relationship between the two. Bart agrees and begins giving instructions for Romer. He then has Romer hit him, all cacti. Xander comments that Bart didn't understand the real purpose and that he should avoid the cacti. Don't hit them. Bart agrees and says it's really bad. In mathematics, Romer keeps falling and gets all bruised up by the cactus spines. The scene changes to Liz and Marge in home. Marge comments that since Romer and Bart are trying to strengthen ties again, they should also to try. Marge suggests that they watch the movies more. Sad horses while painting their nails and eat ice cream. Marge starts showing several horse movies and comments that they are super sad. Marge says the last movie is so sad that they don't even want to show the title. Liz asks if she can see the title. Marge shows it and Liz starts crying desperately, commenting that that film was very sad. Later, Liz and Marge are on the couch watching the movies. Marge comments that she didn't remember that scene and that she was really very sad. Back to Romer, Xander ties Romer to a tree and begins to say that in moments of despair, there are solutions that help a lot to resolve these cases. Xander explains that if Romer jumps from that branch, Bart will come out of that place and go straight to cut the rope that is tying him up. Romer says he doesn't trust much and starts to take off the rope. Xander gets angry and tells Romer to put that rope tightly around the neck. Romer tightens the rope and jumps from the branch, starting to get suffocated. Xander asks if Bart will do anything to save your father. Bart says that at that time it is not possible and that he is busy texting a person. Hey Bart, any action? No way, I'm typing. Bart prank calls Mo, who falls and ends up embarrassing himself in front of everyone. Your customers. Mo realizes he has been pranked and starts typing to reply to Bart, but ends up miss a few keys and give up. Bart starts laughing and sends several emojis to Mo. Xander gets angry and shouts, saying that he is just trying to make Bart feel something for her. Good. Bart responds that he feels something for him, so burps and says Homer is nothing for him. Xander gets angry and starts squeezing the Bart's neck. Homer comments that he can now see how Bart really is. Xander says yes and comments that he will go talk to him after finishing Bart. Bart takes the scissors and removes his father of the tree. As Homer leaves, he takes his hands off Xander of Bart's neck and comments that they have a lot in common and can rekindle ties, suing the therapist for what he did. Xander comments that there is no point since his house is nothing but a hole in a hollow trunk. The scene changes to Homer and Bart lying down underneath Xander's old house. Homer asks if Bart liked that. Bart responds that he did not believe that therapy could do something so good for him. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and your comment. See you in the next videos.